up. Are you okay? Thumbs up. All right.
Every deployment, 400 sailors jumped 60 feet off a moving warship into open ocean, and for 100 years, nobody questioned it. Then the injury reports started stacking up. How did one afternoon of freedom become the Navy's most expensive mistake, and why did it take a century to admit it? Let's find out. 6 months. No sight of land. No phone calls home that last longer than 5 minutes. No privacy. No silence. No escape. Just 6,000 people packed into 1,092 feet of steel, moving through open ocean at 34 knots, running flight operations 24 hours a day. Then one afternoon, the engines slow. The massive ship, 100,000 tons of the most advanced warship ever built, comes to a complete stop in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The captain's announcement crackles over the 1MC intercom system, and within minutes, 400 sailors are standing at the edge of the flight deck, looking down at the water 60 feet below. Then they jump. For over a century, this was normal. This was sacred. This was the swim call, and if you've never served on a carrier, you cannot fully understand what those 90 minutes meant to the people who lived for them. Picture Petty Officer 3rd Class Marcus Webb, 22 years old, 7 months into his first deployment aboard USS Carl Vinson CVN-70. He left his family in Norfolk, Virginia when his daughter was 4 months old. He has seen her face only through a pixelated video call on a laptop balanced against a fire extinguisher in a berthing compartment, shared with 79 other people. For 210 days, his world has been a windowless space below the waterline, 12-hour maintenance shifts, and the constant thunder of FA-18 Hornets launching from the catapults directly above his head. The swim call is the only moment in 7 months where Marcus Webb is not Petty Officer 3rd Class Webb. He's just a 22-year-old man standing at the edge of something vast and blue, with no rank, no duty station, no watch bill, just gravity, water, and the loudest feeling of freedom he has experienced since he left home. That moment, that specific human moment, is what swim calls were really about. Not recreation, not exercise, not even tradition in the formal sense. It was a line between the military machine and the human being inside it. 90 minutes where the institution stepped back and let the person breathe. The tradition traces back further than most people realize. The British Royal Navy was conducting what they called all hands to bathe as early as the 1820s. Back then it had nothing to do with morale. Ships carried fresh water strictly for drinking. A crew of 600 men might have access to no more than half a gallon of fresh water per person per day for all purposes. Bathing was a luxury that did not exist. When the captain judged the sea calm enough and the threat environment clear, he ordered the entire crew overboard to wash in salt water. Hygiene as survival. The United States Navy inherited the tradition and transformed it. By World War II, American carrier crews were conducting swim calls in the Pacific. Theater photographs taken in 1944 near the Marshall Islands showed sailors leaping from USS Yorktown CV-10 into warm tropical water hours after combat operations. The war was still happening. Men were still dying 200 miles away. And here were 300 sailors splashing in the ocean off the flight deck of a warship, laughing. That combination, the absurdity, the joy, the stolen normalcy, is what made swim calls irreplaceable. By the 1960s and 1970s, the tradition had evolved into something almost theatrical. Sailors on USS Enterprise CVN-65 were not just jumping from the flight deck at 60 feet. Some climbed the anchor chains, 18-meter lengths of steel link hanging from the bow, and launched themselves from heights approaching 70 to 75 feet. That is the equivalent of jumping from a 7-story building into open water. No helmets, no padding, no formal training, just a chain, the drop in the ocean. Nobody stopped them. Nobody thought to. The Navy of that era operated on a different philosophy. Risk was part of the culture. Sailors were expected to be tough, to absorb hardship, to handle themselves. The idea that a swim call could be statistically dangerous, that it could generate an injury pattern significant enough to trigger regulatory review, was simply not part of the conversation. Then the data started arriving. Not in a single catastrophic event, not in a headline-making tragedy, just quietly, steadily, in the injury logs of naval medical facilities across the fleet. The pattern was unmistakable to anyone who looked closely enough. And eventually, someone looked. What they found changed everything. But understanding why requires understanding something most people learned in school and immediately forgot, something that turns water into concrete and makes a 60-foot drop into a calculated gamble with your body. Have you ever served on a ship or known someone who did? What does a moment of real freedom mean after months at sea? Leave your answer in the comments below. If this story is already making you see the Navy differently, hit that like button and subscribe. Over 90% of people watching right now haven't subscribed yet. It takes 2 seconds and it means everything to this channel. But before we get to the physics, before we get to the injury reports and the medical data, you need to understand what was at stake. Because the story of why swim calls changed is really the story of how much those 90 minutes meant to the people who needed them most. And that story is heavier than any number I'm about to give you. Most people think water is forgiving. You fall into it. It catches you. You get wet. That's the extent of most people's mental model of what happens when a human body meets the ocean surface. That mental model is wrong. And the gap between what people believe and what physics actually does to a human body at high speed is where careers ended, spines compressed, and the United States Navy's swim call tradition began its long, quiet transformation. Let's start with the numbers because the numbers are brutal. An aircraft carrier of the Nimitz class, USS Nimitz CVN-68, USS Ronald Reagan CVN-76, USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72, has a flight deck that sits approximately 60 feet or 18.3 meters above the waterline. That measurement is not approximate. It is a fixed structural dimension, consistent across all 10 ships of that class, when a human body falls from 18.3 meters in standard gravitational acceleration of 9, 8 meters per second squared. The velocity at the point of water contact is calculated as the square root of 2 times gravity times height. That gives you approximately 18.9 meters per second. Convert that to units, most people instinctively understand, and you get roughly 68 kilometers per hour or about 42 miles per hour. Here's what 68 kilometers per hour feels like in human terms. It is the average speed of a motorcycle moving through city traffic. It is the cruising speed of a professional cyclist on a flat road. If you were standing still and something hit you at 68 kilometers per hour, we would call that a serious vehicle collision. We would call an ambulance. When a sailor jumps from the flight deck of a Nimitz-class carrier, that is precisely what happens. Except the sailor is the vehicle, and the water is the wall. Now here is the physics most people miss entirely. Water appears soft because an everyday experience stepping into a pool, washing your hands, walking in rain, your contact with it is slow enough that water molecules have time to move out of the way. They displace around you. The process is gradual. You feel resistance, not impact. But water molecules do not compress, unlike air, which compresses under pressure. Water is essentially incompressible. At 68 kilometers per hour, a human body strikes the water surface faster than those molecules can physically relocate. The surface tension does not yield gradually. It resists, and in the fraction of a second before the body breaks through, the effective hardness of that water surface approaches that of packed earth. The instantaneous force loading on the human body at that moment of impact reaches between 10 and 15 times the force of gravity, what engineers and physiologists call G-force. For reference, the average person loses consciousness at approximately 4 to 5 G of sustained loading. Fighter pilots in high-performance aircraft like the F/A-18F Super Hornet, wearing full G suits and trained in specialized breathing techniques, are rated to sustain up to 9 G for brief periods before blacking out. A sailor jumping from the flight deck in swim shorts and a t-shirt absorbs a shock load of 10 to 15 G concentrated in less than 200 milliseconds, with no protection, no training, and no warning system built into their body to prepare for it. That load has to go somewhere. The feet and ankles absorb first contact. The tibia and fibula, the two bones of the lower leg, are engineering marvels optimized for walking, running, and the vertical forces of normal human movement. They are not optimized for 15 G of instantaneous horizontal equivalent impact loading. Fractures of the distal tibia and fibula, the bones just above the ankle joint, were documented repeatedly across naval medical records from swim call injuries. These are not hairline fractures. They are the kind of breaks that require surgical fixation with titanium rods and screws, followed by 3 to 6 months of non-weight-bearing rehabilitation. The spine is the second point of catastrophic failure. The lumbar vertebrae, specifically L1 through L4, the load-bearing section of the lower spine, experience compressive forces during a high-speed water entry that they are fundamentally not designed to withstand. A compression fracture at L1 or L2 does not always produce immediate and obvious symptoms. A sailor might complete the swim back to the ship, climb the rope ladder, and not understand for 48 to 72 hours that something in their back has been permanently altered. By then, the damage is done. Then there is the eardrum. The tympanic membrane ruptures at pressure differentials as low as 5 to 10 pounds per square inch in sudden onset scenarios. Water entry at 68 kilometers per hour generates pressure waves that travel through the ear canal and across the tympanic membrane in milliseconds. Even a technically correct feet-first entry, arms at sides, body perfectly vertical, produces enough lateral pressure on the head and ears to rupture one or both eardrums in a significant percentage of cases. The sailor surfaces with sudden, severe hearing loss and immediate disorientation. Two conditions that are catastrophic when you are treading water 60 feet from a moving ship with a current pulling you away. This was the pattern that naval medical personnel began documenting across the fleet. Not individual accidents, not isolated bad luck. A repeating clinical signature: ankle fractures, lumbar compressions, tympanic perforations, and soft tissue injuries consistent with high velocity impact loading. The orthopedic surgeons saw them. The physical therapists rehabilitated them. The medical officers wrote them up. And slowly, the reports accumulated into a body of evidence that could not be ignored. Here's the human side of that data. A petty officer, second class with a surgically repaired ankle, cannot climb ladders, cannot stand watch, cannot perform damage control procedures. On a deployed carrier with a crew of 5,000 to 6,000 personnel, every body matters. A single preventable injury does not just affect the individual. It creates a gap in the watch rotation, adds workload to everyone around them, and costs the Navy an estimated $30,000 to $50,000 in direct medical and rehabilitation expenses before accounting for mission impact. Multiply that by hundreds of swim calls per year across a fleet of 11 carriers, and the physics of one afternoon's recreation adds up to a number that even the United States Navy could not ignore indefinitely. Now imagine you survive the jump, perfect entry, no broken bones, no ruptured eardrum, you are in the water, you are fine, and you're already calculating this as a win. You have beaten the physics, you haven't, because the ocean around you has not finished calculating yet. No ruptured eardrum, you are in the water, you are fine, and you're already calculating this as a win. You have beaten the physics, you haven't, because the ocean around you has not finished calculating yet. You're in the water now. Perfect entry, no broken bones, no ruptured eardrum. You punched through the surface and the Pacific swallowed you whole, and for one suspended second, underwater. There is nothing but silence and cold blue light. Then you start swimming up. That is exactly when the ocean begins its second calculation. The first threat is the one nobody sees from the flight deck. Surface currents in the open Pacific run between 2 and 3 knots, roughly 3.7 to 5.6 kilometers per hour. That sounds small. In the 25 to 30 seconds it takes a swimmer to surface, orient, and locate the ship, a 3-knot current has already moved them 28 meters from their entry point. Now do the geometry. Swells in open ocean run 2 to 3 meters high. At water level, between swells,
Your visible horizon drops to roughly 1.5 meters. USS Carl Vinson is 332 meters long and displaces 104,000 tons. From 28 meters away at water level, in a 2-meter swell, she disappears. Not shrinks, disappears.
Survivors describe the feeling consistently. Not panic, something quieter. The specific hollow silence of surfacing and seeing nothing in any direction but gray-green water. The brain registers the absence before it registers the danger. And in that half-second gap, bad decisions get made. The second threat is the ship you jump from. USS Nimitz draws 11.3 meters below the waterline. Her 4 propellers measure 6.4 meters in diameter, each the height of a 2-story building. Even locked during swim call, they generate passive hydraulic turbulence, extending 40 to 60 meters behind the stern. A swimmer who drifts into that zone doesn't feel a propeller. They feel a pull. Gentle at first, then not. The hull itself creates localized low-pressure zones that generate measurable suction against anything within 2 to 3 meters of the steel. Sailors don't learn about this from briefings. They learn from the moment they feel it. By then, the lesson is already expensive. The third threat is the one everyone imagines and almost nobody understands correctly. When 400 people hit the ocean simultaneously, the acoustic energy is detectable at distance exceeding 8 kilometers underwater. Sharks navigate by lateral line sensitivity, calibrated over 450 million years of evolution, and that specific pattern of mid-frequency irregular splashing is precisely what those systems are tuned for. The Navy has known this since the 1970s. Standard Protocol deploys an RHIB in continuous perimeter patrol, crewed by 2 sailors armed with M16 rifles. Visual confirmation of a fin inside the perimeter triggers immediate recall every swimmer out of the water in under 3 minutes. There are documented cases from Pacific Fleet operations northwest of Hawaii where that recall executed in full. 400 people, 3 minutes, 0 exceptions. The fourth threat comes from inside. Seawater at 28 degrees Celsius feels warm. That warmth is deceptive. Open ocean swimming burns energy at 3 to 4 times the rate of pool swimming because every stroke requires constant micro corrections against current, swell, and lateral drift that a pool never demands. A 75 kilogram sailor burns 400 to 500 kilocalories in 20 minutes. That's the equivalent of running 6 kilometers. Except the adrenaline is still running and the water feels fine, and 399 other people are laughing around you. Wet cotton shorts and a soaked t-shirt increase hydrodynamic resistance by 28 to 35% per stroke. Navy fatigue research found that sailors in standard swim call attire hit measurable exhaustion, a 40% drop in stroke efficiency after just 18 to 22 minutes. The swim call window was 90 minutes. 400 people in the water. No individual accountability. Every sailor assuming someone else is watching. Nobody watching. That is not a safety system. That is a probability distribution, and by the early 2000s, the Navy had enough data to know exactly where that distribution was heading. Which brings us to the decision nobody wanted to make and what it reveals about an institution forced to choose between a tradition and the people that tradition was built to protect. There was no announcement, no Pentagon press conference, no single document that ended the old swim call and began the new one. The change came the way real institutional change almost always comes. One medical report at a time, one ship at a time, one commanding officer choosing to do something slightly differently than the ship before him and writing it down so the next crew could inherit the lesson without paying for it in bone and cartilage. The Naval Safety Center in Norfolk had been accumulating swim call injury data since the mid-1980s. By the mid-1990s, the pattern was impossible to dismiss. The number that finally moved the conversation wasn't a casualty count. It was a readiness number. A documented ankle fracture requires an average of 94 days of restricted duty before full operational return. At an injury rate of 3 to 7 significant events per 100-person swim call under legacy protocols. A single afternoon cost each carrier between 280 and 660 sailor days of operational capacity.
Across 11 carriers running 4 to 6 swim calls per deployment cycle. The annual fleet-wide impact reached an estimated 15,000 to 45,000 lost duty days per year. From swim calls alone, that number reached offices that casualty reports never had. The solution came not from an admiral, but from the medical department aboard USS Dwight D. Eisenhower CVN 69. The resulting document, Prevention of Injury from Improper Water Entry, turned informal advice into non-negotiable procedure.
Mandatory entry position, body perfectly vertical, feet together, arms flat against the outer thighs, chin level. A petty officer on deck visually confirms each sailor's form before they step off. Anyone who cannot demonstrate correct position on the dry deck does not enter the water. The bigger change used infrastructure that already existed. Nimitz-class carriers operate 4 aircraft elevators, hydraulic platforms capable of lifting 36,000 kilograms.
Under the revised protocol, Elevator 3 is lowered to approximately 9 meters above the waterline. Impact velocity drops from 18.9 to 13.3 meters per second. G-force loading falls from 10 to 15 G down to 5 to 8 G. No new construction, no new budget, just a different platform. Documented injury rates dropped an estimated 40 to 60% across Pacific Fleet carriers in the first 3 years of implementation. The final change was accountability.
Numbered tags, 1 per swimmer, issued before entry, collected at exit. No tag return means no dismissal called. 12 extra minutes of procedure. At least 3 confirmed recoveries since fleet-wide rollout. 3 sailors who are alive because a number didn't match. And an RHIB was in the water within 90 seconds. In September 2023, USS Gerald R. Ford conducted a swim call in the Eastern Mediterranean. Among the swimmers was a 19-year-old seaman apprentice, 8 weeks into his first deployment. He stood at the elevator platform 9 meters above the Aegean for 45 seconds. He was afraid. He said so. Then he stepped off. His left arm broke away from his body at the last second reflex and he hit at an angle. He surfaced with his ear ringing and a bruise forming along his forearm that lasted 2 weeks. He said it was the greatest moment of his life in uniform.
Not because the jump was clean, because it wasn't, and he did it anyway. Because for 90 minutes the Mediterranean was warm and the Gerald Ford was sitting still in the middle of it, and none of the rest of it, the rank, the watch bill. The 7 months from home mattered at all. 30 feet instead of 60. The number changed. The moment didn't. If that 19-year-old's story means something to you, hit subscribe. See you in the next video.